All right, one more, Sabra. So, the question for this one is, how did growing up in your decade, or rather my decade, differ from your decade? And how did it differ? And if so, how, rather? Yeah, our decades, the time that we grew up it wasn't really that young, because, wasn't that big of a difference as far as years, right? Because, only 20 years older than you. And so you think there wouldn't be too much of a difference, but a lot of things happen in the world of technology in those 20 years, Sabra. It's kind of wild. Yeah, so like my generation, we were like on the cusp of all of this change in technology. You know, my decade, or my generation, like we were around, like we grew up when video games were just starting at like the very birth of them. And so, technology was still coming along. I think Tutu she may have had one of the first Macs, which was a big deal, but it was basically just like a typewriter with the screen is all that it really did. And, things did start to get advanced. As like in middle school, there's different kinds of games that you could do and whatnot on the computer. But the biggest difference by far was cell phones. That is a massive difference between our growing up periods by far, because cell phones basically came right after I got out of high school. So I think I was either 19 or 20 when I got my first cell phone, and that was a point of where it was kind of affordable, if so, like it wasn't cheap. Like when I got my first phone plan, and you paid for minutes, so you could get so you had plans, similar to what it is now, but it was much different. It was like 300 minutes was a big deal. And I don't think they had texts initially. It was like a year after cell phones came out. But I think like a monthly plan, and I was working at Monaco, so I was making decent money, but it was like $75 a month or something, which was a lot back then. Even think about that now. That's a lot. And so not everybody had them, and then even then, when we first got cell phones, they were all flip phones. They were flip phones, and there was no touch screens, not until, like 2009 or something like that. And so the fact that not everybody had cell phones when I was growing up and in high school, like that was kind of a big deal. I think all of us were probably a little bit more closer because of it, because we didn't have that technology in our face, and so we did have to kind of communicate. That's how we did all of our communication, was actually like through voice and through seeing one another, because we still had phones, so we would talk over the phone, but completely different than being like your generation, where like your generation is probably the first generation to be completely, it's from the time that you entered kindergarten. I don't remember if any of your classmates had kindergarten phones, but I know 100% by third grade, you were like the only kid who didn't have a cell phone, and I thought that was so bizarre. I just thought that was like irresponsible of the other parents to make, or not even make, but to let their kids have cell phones. And so yeah, that may be just one thing, right? It's just a cell phone, but the amount of difference that does to people, like socially and maybe even emotionally, and like on a number of different levels, like that's a huge difference in just how you communicate with your friends and verbally, physically, right? Like some people don't know like physical cues of when somebody wants to leave or is uncomfortable. Like there's a lot of stuff. It's kind of crazy. Your generation is actually heavily studied upon the effects of like cell phones and screens and what it's doing to your generation. Anyways, yeah, by far that is the biggest difference. But I really like your generation though too, because there's certain aspects like, I've read it. Maybe this is true of every generation, because I'm a teacher, and so like I have a lot more interaction with folks of your age. I mean, they're all pretty much your age or even a little bit younger. And I've met a lot of like really good young students, just good young people that are like totally in touch and in tune. And maybe that might obviously be their upbringing. Maybe their parents were kind of seeing what was ahead. I don't know. Maybe I'm just lucky to have met some kids, but that are a little bit more engaged. But who knows? Either way, let's see. Any other bigger differences? No. I mean, that's just like just having the cell phones, I think, is the largest difference. Like nobody was cyberbullied. That was not a term. That wasn't even invented yet. Cyberbullying. Thank God we didn't have cell phones. That would have sucked. And that's one thing I feel really bad about for your generation too. Like, that would suck if every time that I screwed up or, said something stupid or did something stupid, that it would be put on the internet or somebody could take a picture or a video of me. That would suck. That would have crushed my little tiny ego and self-esteem at such a tender age. That probably would have not been good for me. Especially just with my personality. I'm an introvert and I can be pretty sensitive at times, and that would have hurt a lot, I'm sure. And who knows how I would have turned out as a result of that. So it's kind of interesting to think about. But yeah. So anyways, I think that's all I got for today, kiddo. I'm going to finish out my bike ride, get along with the rest of the day. So nice chatting with you on my bike ride. Hope you're having a great day, kiddo. I love you. Bye-bye.